Well, hello. Welcome to Coffee Hour. My name is Jeff. It's nice to be back with you. Hello. We have yes. And Coral Tenor, good afternoon from sunny England. It's nice that it's sunny there today. I heard that at least in the sort of London area, sort of outside the M25, it was really, really rainy this past week. So it's nice to hear that you're getting a bit of break from that. That's good. Yeah, this is Coffee Hour. So if it's a coffee drinking time or tea or whatever, you know, you can have a nice warm or cold beverage of your choosing. We can chit chat about music, singing, answer some questions maybe, show some exercises, whatever you like really. This is your time. So make of it what you will. I am but a facilitator in this particular venue. Good afternoon, Tarciso. And Aaron, good afternoon to you as well. I hope that you are all doing well today. It is a cooler morning here, which is great because it got a little bit hot yesterday and I'm not a huge fan of the heat. So it's nice to get a little bit of a break. And yeah, I got my excellent Tarciso. I am glad. I do try to, you know, be as good about that sort of thing as I can. Sometimes I get closer than others. This time I'm glad that I got that right. Thank you for letting me know. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. So yeah, this is your coffee hour. And if I can be of some assistance, then I am all ears, ready to go. I am going to avail myself of a bit of coffee. Nothing overly special today, just Major Dickinson's blend. And I have a funny idea for a coffee-related short. We'll see if we get around that. Why do I like to sing? That's a really good question. I like to sing because I guess it's the most portable, intimate instrument. I mean, you pretty much take it anywhere. You don't leave your voice at home. You might need to warm up, so maybe that's kind of one way of looking at leaving your voice at home. But I don't know. I'm really fascinated with it, and the more that I studied instrumental music, the more we kept on going back and listening to vocalists and trying to emulate what vocalists were doing. And at some point I just decided, well, let's just kind of cut out the middleman and get straight to it. And that's when I really started to shift my attention towards being a vocalist. Hello, Jeff. I have a problem that remained even after the surgery on my right terminated nose during the exercise, especially if I practice vocal EA. The next day I have facial pain. Well, it certainly shouldn't be like that. Gosh, I almost feel like you should maybe talk to your surgeon or talk to your doctor if there's something going on in there. I can think of no reason why it should cause you pain. It really shouldn't cause you facial pain. When did I start singing? The question's more, when was I not singing, really? You mean, like, the story that I often tell is that I was what was called a latchkey kid. So I had a key to the house. I would let myself in, and then I would just hang out until adults got home. And this is from very, very early on, like, you know, 6 or 7 years old and stuff like that. I had these 5 Beatles LPs that my mom had given me. Still have them. And I would just listen to them over and over and over again and sing along. My first public performance, I suppose, was when I sang the national anthem at 10 for a school assembly. I don't know if that really counts, but you know, there was a microphone involved and everyone was standing there watching. So it kind of seems like a public performance. And then it's been all a sort of following that path in a variety of different ways. It's been a very convoluted path for me. But yeah, I've been singing just for such a long time. How can classical singing warm-up be helpful for contemporary music styles singing? Yeah, because the classical singing exercises are primarily vowel alignment oriented, so they're looking to get the most even, natural response from your voice. And that response also facilitates registration, event practice, and everything else that we do and need for basically all styles. The arpeggio breath management is consistent across genres, and the one thing that you do have to consider when you want to remain in the popular styles is you're going to make a small accommodation for how the vowels sound. You're going to change the shape of those vowels a little bit to stay in the popular genre. That comes at a small cost in terms of flexibility and potentially even range as well, and power, but you don't want to sound like an opera singer singing a pop tune any more than an opera singer wants to sound like a pop singer singing an opera tune. So we make that concession, and we make only as much concession as we need to in order to stay in the genre but still get the performance from our voices that we want and need. Hello. Good afternoon, Galactic FX. Kevin Jones says, me too. How to improve my tone? I hate my tone, Jeff. Hold on a second here. We have a question from internal sources. All right, back in the room here. Sorry, I had to field an internal question. Chi, same thing I was just talking about with vowel alignment. Work on your vowel alignment. Work on your arpeggio breath management. That's the root of your tone. The tone comes from the vowels and how the soft tissues are resonating along with your tone production. Work on your vowel alignment, the tone will come along with it. I'm so happy that you share talent with us. You are so cool. Well, thank you, Aaron. I appreciate that. I must admit, it's a lot of hard work. So if I have a talent, it is a talent of observation, I think, and discipline. I will work and work and work and work at things until I understand them. But what we do here, this is just a lot of time and energy and, quite frankly, passion to try to give as many vocalists as much as I can to help them get the most from their voices for as long a period of time as possible. That's the goal. I want you to get what you need so that you can get what you need from your voice. Oh, Kevin Jones is a latchkey kid too. Yeah, there you go. Good morning, good afternoon. Lila, good morning to you as well. I think the screen may have scrolled past some people here. Hi from the UK. I read that one. Returning, so Kelly, hi from the UK. Hello from California. I'm returning to singing after 10 years. I was a musical theater performer. How long does it take to get back to where I was all those years ago? Thanks for your lovely videos. So you're very welcome. Good question. When you were a performer 10 years ago, I would suggest you contemplate how your life may have been different from the way it is now. If it was different then, and if it's the same, then it still may be some time, to kind of get back to where you were. But if your life is appreciably different now, if you had those 10 years off for a specific reason of some kind, then the differences in your life may very well impact the length of time it takes to get back to where you were. I don't know that you will get back to where you were. Hopefully, you will get back to a better place. You will come to something new, a new realization about your voice, a new way of looking at it, newly acquired skills, and a different perspective on how to use your instrument. I certainly hope that it is as fast as possible. I would suggest that you stick to very, very comfortable mid-range kind of stuff for longer than you think before you start branching off into the extremities of your range. just to make sure that everything is working really, really well, and especially that you get the habit of apoggia breath management, if that's what you were practicing before, back into like the sort of active habits of your singing voice, so that when you do start to branch out, everything moves swiftly. Just take it slow. Just take your time. Be patient. That would be my advice to you. And if you are patient, what feels like a long time now will in fact go far more quickly once you do start to feel back to your old singing self again. You're very welcome, Chi. AC Light, hey Jeff, I hope your morning's going well. Great, quick question. If you have a long concert coming up, how soon before would you warm up? It depends on how long the concert is and what it is too. When I was playing a cover band, our sets were like an hour, and we'd do 3 or 4 of them a night. That's a lot. That's a long gig. Like, that's just a long gig. So I usually didn't warm up, quite frankly. I would program the set list so that in each of the subsequent sets, I had like 2 or 3 songs that I knew I could just warm up on that were like easy, super easy to sing, and that would let me get my mind and my body into the game. Because on that length of gig, it was more about kind of longevity, like having the endurance to get all the way to 1 or 2 in the morning, as it were. Like now if it's an hour-long gig or an hour and a half, that might be a different matter. I still might program a few easy songs at the very, very beginning of the set. But I like to warm up in pretty close proximity to the actual time that I'm going to be singing. So I usually will start my warm-ups 45 minutes to an hour before what I want to do. And I will use that time as both an active warm-up of my voice, practicing and doing things that I know I'm going to need to do in the gig, but also just kind of casually singing songs and getting my mind and body into what I'm going to do. Oops, this is what happens when you drink from the wrong side of your mug. I'm a female and I can reach up to B2. What am I? Well, it's a bit odd because, of course, that would seem to be reaching down to B2 rather than up to. Up to B2 would suggest to me that your range is below B2. Down there. So I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. But, yeah, and it depends on how you're using a voice. Bottom line, though, is that FOC, like vocal range designation, is like overall tessitura is one thing, but where the registration events are is another. So unless you can tell me where your registration events are, I'd only be guessing. And if you know where your registration events are, then you could just as easily look it up on Wikipedia as ask me. But yeah, if you know where your registration events are, tell me and I'll maybe, talk about it a bit more. Alec, Jeff, I've practiced with you for 4 years and I went from mediocre to one of the best singers in my town. Nice. However, I've fallen out of practice in the last months. How to pick up from the crisis moment. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, practice. Mel Robbins. I did a short on it like a week or something. I don't remember. It was like a week ago. Or maybe it just feels like it was a week ago. Feels like a long time ago. Identify what's blocking you. Why are you not practicing? What's the crisis? If you're beyond the crisis, maybe singing could be a part of your recovery. If you're still in the crisis, give yourself a break. Just be in that moment, deal with it, and then come back as soon as you can. Or use singing as a means by which to escape it, if briefly, as a little bit of a respite while you're managing this crisis. But if you're not yet through the crisis yet, be patient with yourself. If you are through the crisis, identify what's still keeping you from doing it. I'm going to do another short in the next several days, the gist of which is, I believe it's taken from Atomic Habits again, which I'm very fond of. If you haven't read that book, I'm not shilling for it. I don't have like any agreements with these people, but it is a really, really good book. And James Clear talks about you don't have to feel like doing something to do it, right? Like when I sit down to practice, I don't have to feel like practicing to actually practice. Maybe when I feel like it, it's more effective. But I can still practice without feeling like it. And quite frankly, I do all the time. So you're going to have to identify what's keeping you from getting in there and getting into the singing. And when you do that, then you can figure out ways to circumvent it. Exercises to sing above the break without flipping to falsetto. Well, that's like basically my entire channel. If you're flipping to a falsetto tone production, then that's more of a function of how you're doing the exercises and how you're using your voice. And furthermore, you can't sing above the break. Well, I mean, you can belt a few notes above the secondo passaggio with regularity without worrying about fatiguing your voice overly much. But, you know, above the secondo passaggio, above the break, is cricothyroid dominant singing voice, commonly referred to as head voice. Problem with that is that everyone thinks head voice is one specific thing. So they get to that range, and they get that airy sound. Okay, well, most people would identify that as falsetto. Falsetto is also a range of voice. It's not just a way of singing. Now, true, the configuration of my voice at that point is configured the way falsetto tone production is done. But when falsetto tone production, when the configuration is used at the appropriate tessitura, it doesn't come off sounding airy like that. It sounds very full and powerful. The problem with head voice is everyone thinks that head voice is the same as that. Sorry, it's still early here, so I'm still kind of coughing up loads of lung butter, as it were. But head voice isn't just where it's very clearly this kind of a thing, right? I am changing to my head voice and then changing back. It's still my head voice, right? But it's not, nor is it. We have to learn how to use the mechanism. On my channel is a high note mini-series. It's 3 videos. That's where I teach how to do that. You might start there. If you need something that is more fully featured, that has more small parts to it, that takes it step by step, then I would suggest you go to my website and get High Note Bootcamp, either the basic or the full membership. You know, those are my courses. I'm selling my courses. Those aren't free. But if that's what you're looking to do, then that would be the way to do it. That's how we sing above the break in at least a few different ways. You can certainly belt as well. If you want to. That tends to have a certain kind of vocal characteristic as well to it that you don't necessarily always want. And courses aside, I still advocate for learning to make the smooth transition to voce piena in testa, the sound of chest voice in head, because it gives you greater options. Options are what fuel, in my opinion, our artistry to a certain extent. Too many options, and then it gets into like kind of analysis paralysis, like you've got too many different things to choose from. But that's my suggestion to you. Always great stuff. Thank you, Tommy. I appreciate that. Leandro, regrets from Brazil. You're great. Thank you. I appreciate that. Max, 48-year-old baritone, used to sing a lot when I was in my early 20s, but I haven't sung much in the past 10 years. Trying to sing again, but have been struggling. Well, take your time, be patient, be gentle with yourself. It can take time. You know, it can take time if you've had some time off. So just try to take it easy, stay with it. A daily practice is your friend. That's what's gonna make it so that you you haven't exactly said what you want to do, but a daily practice is the way to get consistent response from your voice, and in my opinion, get consistently satisfactory responses from your voice. So find a way to work it in on a day-to-day basis, and that'll get you started, and you'll start to see some results, I should think, pretty soon. Manuel, another question. Which of your exercises in particular would you recommend for me to work on singing gospel music? Maybe the riffs video comes to mind, because gospel oftentimes has a bit of blue notes in it and things like that. There were a few other riffs videos that have sort of blue notes, blues elements to them. Those may be good to do as well. I'm focusing primarily on the riffing aspect of it. In terms of the general channel writ large, like all the different exercises and things like that, any one of those are going to help you with vowel alignment and your overall performance capabilities, and are, perfectly appropriate for gospel. Max, have I got to accept that my voice is going to be weaker as I get older? Well, at some point, Max. I mean, time does come for us all. Except maybe Ray Kurzweil. He might dodge it. Ray Kurzweil might, duck, dodge, and dive around that one. But it's gonna. Max, I don't know how old you are. The thing that I would suggest you focus on is that some things are perhaps inevitable, but what you do in the years before that inevitability happens will determine how much you retain going past that point. So if you're still in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, maybe even into the 60s, the more that you can commit to a regular practice to keep the muscle groups well toned and in use and elastic, the better off that you will be as you move on into that place where time does exert its wrath upon us all. Gee, people say I sing in tune. What this mean, Jeff? Whoa, new subscriber. I lost where. New subscriber has been doing your scales. How long does it take for voiceless exercises to work? Depends on where you're starting from, Chi, and singing in tune means that you're singing the same pitch as is being represented in the song or melody. So I'm singing that pitch. I'm singing it in tune with the piano. If I were flat, you can hear I'm just above it. If I'm sharp, you can hear I'm above it there too. That's being out of tune. There are degrees. You could be much more out of tune where you're just singing a different pitch. I sang a third. You get that's like a different thing. That's singing an interval. That's not being out of tune. What you think about the music industry at this time? You like reggaeton, a Spanish singer? Don't know that particular Spanish singer. I think the music industry has never been better for those of us who are independent in it. It's a great time to practice your craft, write your songs, and record your music in whatever way you want. I'm not so sure that you need anything more than an iPhone or even an Android phone. I know there's a lot of different varieties of Android phones, so I can't speak as definitively, but iPhones can make kind of compelling recordings these days. And with GarageBand, you can even do multi-track recordings, I think. That's it. That's all, that might be it. The barrier for entry to making your craft in music, making your art in music, has never been lower. If you go beyond that, you very quickly can get equipment that will make you will enable you to make recordings that are nearly as well produced as what anyone else in the world is producing. At some point it becomes just this law of diminishing returns, where you might go to Fantasy Studios, which is a multi-million-dollar facility, But if you've already invested a couple $1,000s in room treatment and a couple nice microphones, you know, and a computer to make it all go, maybe a nice preamp as well if you know what kind of flavor you want, then the differences are going to be de minimis. No casual listener is going to hear the difference there. I mean, and I would cite Billie Eilish. I mean, supposedly, like, that first record was made with, I don't know if it was the entire thing or if it was just her vocal that was cut with an AT2020. I think that's like $100 microphone. I think it's a very inexpensive microphone, but that's what's available these days. You can get extremely high quality equipment for a very low cost and make great sounding records. Thanks so much. You're welcome, Kelly. Do you recommend stretching before singing? Yeah, get your body going, Kevin. Absolutely. Like, get your energy going. Half the time, I sing so much that a vocal warm-up is almost less required than a physical warm-up. Like, I need to get my physical body in the game almost more than my voice, because every day I sing scales and songs, like, so much just either teaching or making videos for YouTube or practicing, just doing, you know, the stuff that I want to do for the goals that I want to move forward on. So it's like, I mean, sure, I warm up, I'll do scales and things like that, and I practice them so that my craft remains, you know, vital. It means I stay sharp. But you know, yeah, the physical, the body warm-up can almost be more important than the vocal warm-up if, you know, you have spent time getting vowel alignment and registration event practice well suited, like you've got those practices in hand. You can do all of the things that I demonstrate and show regularly, and you know, you can rely on it. Like, it's a consistent way of using your voice. It's the habit. Then the physical aspect of your warm-up can be as or more important. Do you program your set list with an emotional story narrative to provide a narrative and to give yourself vocal breaks? Yes. And I'm also open-minded to switching it on the fly if I deem that to be necessary. I don't know if I've ever, you know, having said that, I don't know if I've ever stuck to my set lists verbatim as I created them. I think that I've almost always deviated at some point. You got to read the room, you know, like, and especially the kind of gigs that I was playing. I mean, I've been at shows. I mean, I've played shows where reading the room wasn't really in the cards. Like, either the show was a programmed set and it had to be executed a certain way, or the crowd was so large that it just wasn't really. Or maybe I'm just not adept at reading that kind of size of crowd. Those are rare occurrences for me. You know, you're not really reading the room because the room goes out, like, you know, 300 yards beyond where you're standing. So, yeah, read the room, but make your set list with an idea, with an intention. I always come to the set list with intention. Yeah. Can mental health affect singing? Gee, absolutely, without question. That is like sleep. I call sleep like an insidious actor on the voice. Mental health, attitude are absolute actors on the voice. And if you are, you know, suffering in that way, if there's something that's going on, and you're distracted or otherwise having problems of some kind, yeah, like, that's going to impact your ability to perform for sure. Can you explain coloratura? I could. I mean, generally speaking, coloratura is generally attached to the word soprano. At least in this context. I mean, so I'm kind of speaking from this context. Coloratura lines are generally very florid lines. Let me use another word besides florid. Fast-moving notes that ornament the melody in a pretty way. So they are generally composed. They are not improvised. Though I bet if we looked up the sort of historical precedents around coloratura parts, I bet we'd find that there was some improvisation involved in it. But to my knowledge, coloratura parts are generally very high tessitura, very fast moving lines, typically associated with the soprano vocalist. And yeah, that's about it. Fast moving notes. Choral tenor, don't worry, Max. So that's to Max. This was just answer I needed. Just do it. Ha. Cool. Margaret, I'm a senior who loves to sing. Alto. Thank you for your warm exercises. Margaret, you're very welcome. I am happy to serve. I am glad that the videos are serving you well. This is coffee hour after all, so, you know, I don't want to miss out on my own coffee hour. That would seem to be... Sorry, I'm not muting my microphone for drinking today. I apologize. I'll do that this time. Ah, of course, I unmute it right as I swallow. Jeez. Gotta tell you, folks, having a bit of a week this week. Little bit of a week, so bear with me if I'm a little bit slow on the uptake here. Thank you for the words of wisdom and bless you for your lessons. All the best. Well, thank you, Alec. I appreciate that. Melting pot, can I, at this stage, have an idea of my voice type, or it's just impossible to... Well, I don't know where you're at. I don't know where you are with your voice, so I can't say. What I can say is that your FOC will reveal itself as you make your way through exercises and practices that vocalists follow. So as you work on your vowel alignment, as you work on your arpeggio breath management, if you're working it with an instructor, if they begin the practice of working you through the zona de passaggio and ultimately over the secondo passaggio so that you can make a smooth transition to cricothyroid dominant singing voice, ultimately attaining voce piena in testa. Let me unpack that in English. If you're working with an instructor that takes you through the mix range and ultimately over the break so that you have a consistent sound from your chest voice through your head voice and it sounds the same, then your FOC will have revealed itself to you by then. In other words, focus primarily on the function of your voice and the acquisition of those skills, and then the FOC will reveal itself to you. Thank you for the words of wisdom. I already read that. Oh! There's so many questions, which is wonderful, by the way. Thank you. I totally appreciate that. How aerobic exercise affect singing stamina? That's a really good question. I mean, your body is your instrument, so the healthier, the more fit you are, the more just kind of, in my opinion, the more aerobic capacity you have, I think it will help your stamina. That being said, you don't have to be a marathon runner to sing. You know, that's far from the truth. You just have to be in good health. If you go for a nice healthy walk every day, you're probably going to be absolutely great. The muscles that we're talking about here are so small. They are so small. The muscles down here are much bigger. But with practice, the way that we use them isn't a kind of a usage. It's more of a kind of a usage where we're kind of holding them in an energized state, which does get tiring, but it's not like lifting dumbbells or something like that. But I'm a runner and a rock climber, and I always advocate for physical activity as best that suits you. So if running is great for you, then great. Walking, great. Ride a bike, awesome. Just do move your body, get out there, be active. It will help not only your singing, I think, but I think your whole being writ large. Suzanne just tuned in. Thank you for all your videos. You're very welcome. Thank you. How important are vocal warm-ups for people who speak for work? Should the exercises be different for those of singers? I think they're important. I think they give you overall greater function and greater flexibility. So especially if you're a voice actor and you need lots of different colors and different sorts of feelings and different tessituras, then the exercises like you'll find on YouTube, I might suggest my own channel, those exercises are going to help you have more overall flexibility and control of your voice. All of our warm-ups, in theory, could kind of be different for all of us because we all have different strengths, different weaknesses. We sing different repertoire, and that repertoire has different requirements. That's why there's so many warm-up videos on my channel. Because in theory, you could have a specific warm-up unique for every person, for every song that they were going to sing. Not even to mention if there were different keys that you might change it to. So it quickly gets unmanageable. And in what I do in my videos is try to consolidate the observations that I've made over the years of vocalists and put together warm-ups that address certain topics in as specific a capacity as I can get while still keeping it broad enough that the vast majority of people are going to get some use out of it. That means making some assumptions about how vowels are shaped and how vowels are spoken, like people's speaking voices. Whenever you generalize, you're going to be wrong. You know, a generalization is a generalization. There are going to be exceptions. So that's kind of the way that I go about making those videos. But yeah, absolutely. I would highly recommend you avail yourself of the numerous resources online and look at what you are required to do in your speaking engagement and then choose the warm-up that fits that bill. Brief pause here. I always forget to do this. If you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe. It really does help the channel, and this time of year is quite rough on creators, so even if you choose not to subscribe to me, if you do watch other channels regularly, but you haven't yet subscribed, subscribe to them. Like, it doesn't really cost you anything, and you don't even have to turn notifications on, though if you did, you'd know when I was doing these things and you could ask more questions. Also, for those of you who have heard me say Apagio breath management a bunch of times but don't know what it is, Apagio breath management is the breathing for singing that we use, and it transformed my voice. I came to it later in my career, and I wished I'd have come to it sooner. For that reason, I have made a breathing for singing course. It is on sale right now on my website, jeffrolka.com. It is absolutely transformational in terms of, if you're not using Apagio breath management, the adoption of that as a skill has the potential to really change everything as it did for me. Let's keep going. I have a question. How to sing in mask. You know what? I always talk about this one exercise. So it's like sing, sing, sing. The tongue is lifted and touching the roof of my mouth in the rear of my mouth. All the air is coming out the sinus passages. And this can give you a feeling of how it feels to be in the mask. And then once you get that, you can release the tongue, bring it down a little bit, get the vowel in addition to that sinus resonant, that mask resonance. Thank you for streaming, Jeff. You're welcome, Nam. Krishna is saying hello and hope you are well. What does it mean in singing when one talks about a throaty voice? Generally, that means like someone who's kind of talking like that, which the more you learn about it, you realize like that's a little bit of a depressed larynx. It has a little bit of vocal fry. It's kind of on the lower boundary of what I can actually do. That's an exaggeration. You could still be throaty without overdoing it, but in the interests of showing you what that is, that's what that is. But to be honest, like there's not a lot of consensus on the use of these terms. So another voice teacher could totally say something entirely different, and that would be just as valid as what I just said. I wish we had consensus on the terminology. It would make life for everyone way easier, but sadly, I don't see that happening anytime soon. And in fact, there was a publication that was released just last year, which to me suggests that we're going the other direction. And I'm not terribly thrilled about that, but I'm doing the best I can to try to help clear up the confusion around these things. So yeah, there's no consensus on these terms, and throaty isn't a term that you'll really find much in vocal pedagogical books anyway. Hearts, thank you, Aaron, I appreciate that. Max, thanks, Jeff. I guess my question was, am I not so good at the moment because I haven't sung for so long? Because I'm getting older, or both? Thanks for your answer and for your videos. Yeah, Max, I mean, if you've had a lot of time off, it's just going to take time to get back into the game, you know? And if in those intervening years you've aged a bit, well, I mean, that's, you know, that's kind of what's going to happen, right? Then I just like totally, I saw Brandon chiming in there and I like zoned out for a second. Thank you, Brandon, for that. I really appreciate that. Thank you for being here today. Smash the like button, everyone. Thank you. I appreciate that very, very much. Now I'm all like confused. Well, I guess that's not really that different from what I was like 5 minutes ago. I wasn't terribly confused 5 minutes. Now I'm totally digressing. Right. Focus. 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 Max. Daily practice. That's your mantra. Daily practice. Time is gone. You've had some time off. Let's not linger on that. Let's linger on what you can do from today moving forward. And let's not worry too much about tomorrow. Let's just worry about today. You know, if you haven't already gotten 5 or 10 minutes of singing in, if you can, make it happen. Get that in there. Get it in there tomorrow. Make that your practice. Maybe you're already practicing more than that. If so, that's great. But get going with it. Don't wait another day. In other words, if we don't practice today because we're worried about the 10 years that we missed, then it becomes 10 years in a day, and maybe 2 days, and 3 days. Just get started. That's the most important thing to do. Yeah. Just asking because my voice teacher said I was born with a good ear. What's she mean? Laughing out loud. There you go. Shalom. Hi, Jeff. Love your shirt. Thank you. This is vintage, but I bought it new. Just tells you how old I am. I bought it at the Gap that was at Powell and Market like 20 years ago in downtown San Francisco. I think that shop is long. I don't know if it's still there or not. It might be. If I was long gone. I've never seen you in one. Yeah, I know it's normally the black one, but I wore this for an early morning lesson today because I needed to clip my lav mic onto it, and I was like, oh, I'll wear it for this too. Still straining through my high notes. I am a tenor. What may I be overlooking? Well, if you're straining, then you're not making a registration event. You need to work on registration event technique. It's not the same as belting. Being mindful about your tongue and larynx is part of it, but you've got to facilitate the elongation of the vocal fold. Could also be airflow, like apogea breath management related as well if you don't have quite enough subglottic air pressure. Anthony, I've been busking a ton here in town. Wonderful. Really like your tenor warm up. Feel it kind of tunes me up for the next set. Brilliant. Well done. I love it when the warm ups can be used in that way. I love singing. I love performing. I love supporting singers, and I love supporting public performers. I think that's wonderful. Keep it up. Pauline, hello Jeff, new subscriber from Kenya, welcome. I've not been singing for almost 1 year. Why does my voice break when I sing, especially when singing high notes, which I do? Well, establish a consistent practice in your kind of comfortable range below the break, below the secondo passaggio, and don't rush to the upper register. Just take some time getting settled into your voice, especially if you've had a year off. That's a significant amount of time. It's going to take some time to ease back into things. Chi, can lip trill help with breath control? I can running out. Yeah. Okay. So when you're running out of air with the lip trill, that's more about how the vocal folds are closing or adducting, and but I mean, yeah, the lip trill can help with breath control. But the thing is that it it facilitates vocal fold closure because it takes the weight of the air column off the voice. So if you're doing the lip trill, the barrier of the lips is making it easier for the vocal folds to change shape. That's also why it's really useful if you're practicing singing over the break, singing over the secondo passaggio. But if you're doing the lip trill and you hear this, where it gets really softer and the lips start to go really fast, your vocal folds have separated. That's not a productive way to practice that. You have to learn to make that hollow sound. It kind of, you know, that's when voice teachers start saying like, sing like you feel like you're yawning and things like that. That's the sound of closed or adducted vocal folds. That will ultimately produce a consistent sound across the secondo passaggio. I'm incapable of lip trills, Anthony. You know, Anthony, if you haven't yet, this is free, okay? So I'm gonna talk about my website, but it's free. If you sign up for my newsletter, and you can unsubscribe. Once you get access, you can immediately unsubscribe if you want to, though I'd love for you to stay on board because I do issue like weekly informational newsletters and things like that. The AAA method is my fundamentals method for singing, and I go through a segment on establishing the lip trill pretty in depth. I would suggest you check that out. Again, I know I'm flogging my own wares here, but just give it some thought. It doesn't cost anything. Just sign up for the newsletter. Once you're in, you're in. You don't lose it if you unsubscribe or anything like that. And check it out. The segment on lip trill might help you establish it. Usually, and then there's that thing where people can do it like, but then it won't continue going. And that's about the continuance of the subglottic air pressure, the continuance of the flow of air. Dude, your vibe is so sunflower. What is falling leaf, star, rose, heart, star? I love the stars, Aaron. Thank you. I'm feeling pretty groovy. You know, I have a bit of a headache today. Like I slept a bit funny, and I had a little some funny stuff going on yesterday. So I feel a bit like kind of, but thank you. I really appreciate that. Lounge of Sound. Thanks for answering some of my sets go 3+. Thanks for answering. Yes, you're welcome. My sets go 3+ hours. I need another practical resource for endurance other than staying hydrated. Yeah, I can dig it, you know. I mean, Lounge of Sound, if you're still there, I got some bad news too. And I hope that you're getting paid. I hope that you're getting paid for those kinds of sets. I did a lot of cover gigs where we were paid in beer, and that doesn't make the job any easier. So if hopefully you're getting actual monetary compensation for your time and expertise. If you're not, and you're being paid in beer or food or something like that, see if you can like take it home with you or something instead of consuming it at the gig. Or just try to negotiate so that you can say like, well, if I were gonna drink 3 beers plus tip, it would be like, $20 or I don't know. I haven't been to a bar in such a long time. I have no idea. I quit drinking some years ago. Like make up a number. I don't care. And then just try to negotiate back and say like, oh, look, I'll just be hands off on the beer, but just give me $50, because that was, a couple nights not ideal for my own vocal performance that evening. Full disclosure here. I've had my ups and downs. Dana, laughing out loud. I wonder what Dana's laughing at. Alex Sandler, and I love thank you so much for all these questions. Thank you, I really appreciate it. And I'm gonna try and pick up some of these here. because I'm going to have to go briefly. Alec, one more quick. I'm not abusing. No, of course you're not abusing. You're just asking questions. My jaw often snaps when I open it more and more. For instance, when going over the secondo passaggio, it feels very uncomfortable. Yeah, I mean, try to keep your jaw so it's neither not when you're singing, neither shut nor is it open as much as possible. Find that comfortable middle ground and stay within it. One of the exercises you can do to practice that starting in a comfortable range. Just, only slightly open, generally shut. It's gradual. It stays in motion. And then move that so that you're singing those same things over the secondo passaggio and practice it like that there too. Melting Pot, you're very welcome. Anthony, I think you're a very good instructor and an indispensable resource here on YouTube. Thank you. I appreciate that. Classical bass baritone in training here. How can I achieve a fuller or less thin sound in my high range? Well, if you're in training, that would suggest you're working with a vocal coach. And I would suggest you bring that up with them first and foremost. It's hard for me to know exactly what you're doing because I've never heard you sing, unfortunately. That range of your voice, if you're a bass baritone, is saddling the secondo passaggio for you, well into the zona di passaggio on the C4 side, and then F4 is above the secondo passaggio for you. So you're working on registration event practice, working on just greater, good appoggio breath management will give you the best flexibility of so that the cricothyroid muscles can elongate the vocal folds, giving you that transition across the secondo passaggio in as smooth a fashion as possible. All of that will help you sound fuller. But I would talk to your teacher. See what they're saying too. They may have that in mind and they may already have a program in place for you that they're working on. Kevin, I know that speaking voice and singing voice are different, but I always sing louder than my speaking voice. Any tips? I'm a tenor that typically sings higher songs. It's normal. There's a balance that occurs between speaking and singing, and a further balance that occurs as we change registers from lower, more thyroarytenoid dominant or chest voice dominant to cricothyroid dominant upper. That balance is largely vocal fold engagement versus airflow, or really it's really subglottic air pressure. But most singing teachers, and I try to avoid this, but I also try not to be too much of a singing. I don't want to sound like an elitist saying subglottic air pressure all the time, but that's really what it is. The actual flow of air doesn't increase substantially as we change ranges, but the pressure underneath it does. That's the real actionable item there. But we say airflow anyways because, I want to be approachable. By the same token, I want to give you the right information. Anyway, the balance changes from marginally more vocal fold engagement to marginally more subglottic air pressure. The same thing is true for our speaking voice to singing voices. So when you go from purely a minimal amount, in a speaking voice, a minimal amount of airflow and a predominance of vocal fold engagement, which is why speaking is so tiring. After these live events, I kind of have to take an hour off from basically anything because my voice gets so tired from all the talking, even though I am in fact engaging as if I were singing. By the very nature of going from speaking, which is marginally more vocal fold engaged, than even thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice singing, the change in subglottic air pressure and the increase is going to make you a bit louder. So that's perfectly normal. Hello, Clarissa. Just tuned in. Can you address, I'm 8-1. How to combat the effects of aging. Kind of talked about that earlier. You might, when this is all over, you can go back and listen again maybe. Briefly summarize, practice now in anticipation of those changes. The more that you do now, the easier it will be. You know, there's going to be some loss of elasticity. There's going to be some loss of muscle toning and things like that as we age. Much of that is inevitable. We just have to try to do as much as we can now in preparation for those changes. Yes, daily practice and start today. Yes, Virtual Busker. Hi, Jeff. I've been following and supporting you since 2016. Thank you. Truly appreciate that. Brandon did mention Super Chat, which is really appreciated. And also there's like, I've been seeing like, there's like donations you can make on certain videos, I guess, too, which is really helpful to keep this whole thing rolling. I have a little problem and I could appreciate some help. Okay. Ups. Okay, I'll start over. Oh, thank you for your wisdom, Jeff. You're welcome, Arpita. Mrs. Webster, hey, so nice to hear from you, Mrs. Webster. So happy to finally catch another live event. Thank you, Jeff, especially doing this. You're very welcome. Anthony, what's kind of funny, I've been busking so much, I'm kind of addicted to performing for people. I haven't made a ton of money, but I've had some incredibly positive responses and interactions. Yeah, YouTube's kind of like that too. You know, like I am grateful for what people share with me. Very, very much so. Yet by the same token, the kindness, the generosity of words and the sort of outpouring of emotional support has been unbelievable to me. Like I never anticipated that. Like I anticipated a variety of things in the YouTube channel. Didn't see that coming at all, and it's been amazing. Nam, what else can be practiced apart from daily warm-ups? I practice songs that I want to sing, but it isn't like a progressive path, as the song might not be at my level. I do baritone, tenor, alto warm-ups. There's so many different things. This might be one of those times when I also diverge a little bit and say that, you know, you might study music theory, reading music if you don't read music yet. You might work on some piano chops if you don't play, or guitar chops if you don't play, if that's the direction you want to go. In other words, add some instrumental music component to your musical practice. The more that you study music writ large, I gotta change that. I've been saying that a lot because I like the way it sounds, but I really need to find another one. The more that you just study music in general, the better musician overall you will become, the better vocalist you will become. You might identify the specific things that you'd like to do with singing. Maybe you want to be a backing vocalist. Well, skills like ear training, learning to sing harmonies and things like that will make you an even more compelling and competitive backing vocalist than maybe some other people who haven't done that practice. Identify what you want to do, look at the skill set, see what you're doing, give yourself a pat on the back for what you've not the bat. Don't pat yourself on the back with a bat. I'm not recommending that. Give yourself a little, you know, high five or thumbs up, and then see what you're missing, and then work on those things. Hi, Jeff. Thanks for your videos. Sometimes when I don't feel motivated to start warming up before a rehearsal or gig, just pulling up one of your vids makes all the difference. You know what? That's awesome. Wonderful. Absolutely awesome. That's where it's at. You know, if these videos, I love hearing about these videos, helping people get their daily practice on. That is absolutely brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. Mrs. Webster's talking to Nam. Virtual Busker. Hey, Jeff, why there are some days where I can flawlessly perform your comprehensive warm-ups while on other days I can't. Not knowing what's happening makes me feel extremely unsure. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I mean, it could very well be some consistency in the way that you're approaching registration event practice or things like that. It could just be the day. You know, if you had like a super long busking day, you know, like you're out there for 5 or 6 hours, you're going to be tired the next day. So like, let's say at the beginning of that 5-hour marathon busking day, you did the comprehensive warm-up and it went just beautifully, but you had the day off before that. And then like you busk for 5 hours, and the next day you come back and you're like, oh, I'm a bit tired and it's not really working the way I want it to. Well, consider what's going on. there's a certain point where, you know, like earlier on in this video, I mentioned that I do vocal warm-ups and things like that, but strictly speaking, I don't feel like I necessarily need to all the time, because I sing and vocalize so much in my day-to-day existence. I teach and I show vocalizations and I demonstrate things. I do videos and I demonstrate vocal warm-ups. And usually when I'm doing, like when I'm putting my videos together, I go through all those exercises and I use my warm-up to gauge how it's functioning before I shoot the video for the warm-up that I've just created. It's like this weird cyclical thing there. At any rate, you know, but there comes a point where you're using your voice so much that on the far side of it, like on the far side of that 5-hour day, you know, if that's a Wednesday, on Thursday, you could be potentially so fatigued that it takes you longer to warm up because of how much you did the day before. That's what we do want to avoid, that. And that, for me, like talking will usually do that. So like today, I mentioned I'm gonna have to take some time off after this, and then I'm also gonna need to do more vocalizations to just get my voice back where I like it to be, feeling the way that I want it to feel when I'm singing in singing repertoire and things like that. I do have to wrap this up. I'm going to see if I can maybe spot maybe one or more questions that looks intriguing. Your videos help me more than any vocal coach. That's wonderful. Thank you. You're very welcome, Mrs. Webster. Everyone. Oh, thank you very much, Brandon. I appreciate that. Here's you know, here's to the coffee chat. Thank you, everybody, so much. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for just everything. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. JeffRolka.com with a new Breathing for Singing course. If you need some high note help, check out High Note Bootcamp. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Take really good care of your voices. Enjoy singing. We'll see you again. Thank you, Professor T. Tom. Appreciate that. Bye, everybody.